Okay. For those on video, we just worked through these problems. Work through them by yourself as well. All right. Back to the slideshow. Okay. So on Wednesday, we had the motivating example with absolute value. Just as a recap, if the value is positive, what do we do to get the absolute value? Yeah, no, so if it's already positive, we don't have to do anything. We can just print it out. If it's negative, what do we have to do? Multiply by -1. So the program's doing two different things based on the input that we get from the user. To symbolize this in a flowchart, or to visualize it in a flowchart, we ask the user for a number. Then what you all said, if the number is negative, another way we can represent that is if number is less than 0, then we come into this true branch. And in the true branch, we multiply the number by -1, and then it rejoins with the rest of the code. And we would print out the number. But if number is equal to 0 or it's greater than 0, then this kind of diamond or if statement will be false. And then we don't do anything for the false case, and we just print out the number. Any questions there? Okay. So if statement syntax. Again, key things to note. The condition, whatever is in the parentheses, must always come out to be true or false. So it can either be a Bool variable, it can use one of the 6 relational operators that we've discussed. You could also just literally put in the word true or false there, but then there isn't really a point if you do that because it'll always do it. We want it to kind of be based on a condition. Note, no semicolon after the curly brace, but any code that's in here will have a semicolon at the end. Any questions there? Okay. And note the indentation. Everything gets indented one level when it's inside the curly braces. All right. Some of what we talked about as well is, in this case, we only did something for the true case, but what if we want our program to do something different for the false case? Again, visualizing this in a flowchart, the example that lecture 1 had, we asked the user for the temperature. If the temperature was greater than a certain amount, then we told the user, let's play basketball. But we want to tell the user something else if it's cold. And so this is the false case, and we tell the user, let's play board games inside. Yep. Everyone remember this? Okay. So the if-else syntax, again, a lot on one slide, but for people who've come into lecture, you've had practice with this. Or sorry, you've come into lab, you've had practice, or if you're coming in today or Monday, you'll have practice actually writing this out, and it'll be easier to memorize. But again, just highlighting the main points. Condition must be true or false. If it's true, the code in the first set of brackets runs. Otherwise, we put the keyword else. Note that there's no condition after else, right? Because we're assuming the first condition was false, so now we just capture every other case in the else statement. And any code in the second set of brackets will run for that false case. Yep. Any questions? Okay. Cool. So before we go into some new material, I just wanted to recap. What are some of the operators we've learned about so far? Okay. Yep. So greater than, less than. All right, hold up. Let's finish out these. What are 2 more here for the relational operators? Okay. So 2 equal signs, and then the exclamation equal for, and what's this exclamation equal? Not equal. Cool. Okay. And then I think we were getting to the next one. So arithmetic operators. All right. So multiplication is the asterisk symbol. Division is a /. What else? Plus, minus, and mod. Sweet. All right. What else have we learned?
Bool, strings, doubles.
Okay. Those are data types. Yep. Assignment operator. Yes. And what's the assignment operator symbol? 1 equal sign. I saw in lab, right? Some people were putting an equal sign in the condition. If we want to check equality, we do the 2 equal signs. If we want to assign a value, then we use the single equals. Okay? Any others? Okay. What we call the stream operators. And this is used for cout, and this one is used for cin. Yeah? Okay, so 6, 11, 12, 14 operators we've learned so far. We're going to learn 3 more today. Okay, so the first one is going to be and. And let's motivate it with an example. Let me create a new slide. All right, so let's say, oops. I don't want that. Okay, so let's say we wanted to figure out if user is a teenager. So how would we define what a teenager is? Okay, so user is a teenager if they're in the age range 13 to 19. So essentially if it ends in teen, so like 13, teen ends in teen, but 12 does not. 19 ends in teen, but 20 does not. So if they're 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, or 19, then they're considered a teenager. Yep. So let's say we had at the start of our code a variable called age, and we'll pretend we get that from the user. I guess, right, cout. What is your age? Cn into age, right? So we have the age of the user stored in age. And how can we essentially have to do 2 checks here, right? One, we have to check if they're at least 13. And the second is we have to check that they're less than 19, yeah? So how do we do the first check, making sure they're at least 13 years old? Age is over 12, okay. So we could do age is greater than 12. What's another way we could say that?
Equal to.
So still how can we check if they're 13 or older?
Greater than or equal to 13.
Yep, so we can also do it like that. Either will work. Yeah, either will work. Generally in this case, it's maybe slightly more readable to do, for this particular problem, to do this one. Because now if the user sees in our code like greater than or equal to 13, and then the other case for 19, it makes it more clear that we're talking about teenagers. But this way would have worked as well. Okay, so age is greater than or equal to 13. How can we check the other end of the range? Okay, cool. Do these 2 statements by themselves make sense to people?
Yeah.
Okay. But now we want both cases to be true, right? So let's say like age was equal to, maybe instead of the Cn, I'll just do it as a normal program. Let's say age is equal to 12, okay? Is that greater than or equal to 13? No, so that's false. And is it less than or equal to 19?
Yes.
That's true. Okay, so really quick, we're gonna put in this AND operator. And what we're saying is, if we have false and true, that comes out to false overall. 12 is not a teenager, right? How about if age was 20? Is that greater than or equal to 13? So that's true. And is it less than or equal to 19? No. That's false. Is 20 a teenager? Okay, so true and false is false. How about if age was 17? Is that greater than or equal to 13? And is it less than or equal to 19? Okay, so true and true is equal to true. Yeah? So putting that into the table. All right, so what did we say true and true is?
True.
How about true and false?
False.
False and true? And we didn't do this case, but what would you guess?
False.
Okay. Cool. So going back to this example, does it make sense why we might need the AND operator?
Because they could be multiple things.
Yeah, so especially for something like checking if the user is a teenager, there's 2 things that have to be true. And the overall condition is only true if both of these sub-conditions are true. Yeah, yes, sure.
So you have to put 2.
Yes, For the AND operator, you have to put 2 of these ampersand symbols, and the ampersand for most keyboards is Shift 7 on your keyboard. Yeah. In programming 2, you'll learn about stuff with pointers and memory, and that uses a single ampersand for something very different. But for our conditionals and, you have to put 2 of these ampersand symbols. Okay. This makes sense? Any questions? Okay. So how to tell if a user is a teenager? We need both conditions to be true. Now let's do an OR case. And for this one, again, create a new slide. Okay, so discounts based on age. So sometimes when you go to the movie theater, you'll notice that they have different prices based on how old you are. So there's usually the child discount, and we'll say if user is under 10 years old, then they get the child discount. But then there's also the senior discount. And so we'll say if user is over 65 years old, they get a discount. And so we want to write some code that decides whether we should give this given user a discount or not. So again, we'll have int age. What's the condition we can do to check the first case, that whether we should give a discount? Okay. If also, sorry, when we did this one, it would kind of look like this. If age, and then that's the condition, and then whatever code we have. Yep. Okay. Okay. So the first thing we're saying is if age, for this problem, we'll just say it's only strictly. If they're strictly less than 10, then we give them a discount. And then what's the other case that we give a discount? Okay. And how can we put that in code? Okay, so we'll get to that, but first just the condition for the over 65 years old. Okay. So again, we have to say age again. Notice that we have to put the variable both times, right? Age is greater than 65. And then you kind of beat me to the punch, but for OR, we do these 2 pipe symbols. So note, it's not like the number 11. It's where you have your backslash symbol. If you do a shift and then enter it, then it gives this symbol. It's what we call the pipe symbol. So if age is less than 10 or age is greater than 65, then we'll give a discount to the user. So let's see what the outputs are if, let's say, age is equal to 8. So the first subcondition, age is less than 10, is that true or false? Age is less than 10? Okay, you good? True. And then age is greater than 65. False. And should we give a discount in this case?
Yes.
We should, because they match one of the categories. So true or false is true. How about if the user is 72?
Yes.
The first case, okay, so first case is false. Second case?
True.
And should we give the discount?
Yes.
Okay. How about something where it's 45? Is 45 less than 10? Is 45 greater than 65? Should we give a discount?
False.
Okay. Cool. So putting it back in the table, we didn't have the true case, but what would you guess that would be?
True.
Okay. True or false? False or true?
True.
False or false?
False.
Okay. So notice with the AND table and this table, the first row and the last row are the same. It's really just those middle 2 rows. That's the big difference between AND versus OR. So with AND, all the conditions have to be true in order for the overall result to be true. And with OR, you just need at least one of them to be true for the overall condition to be true. Right? And especially with this discounts problem, there's no way for a user to both be under 10 and over 65. So we wouldn't want to use AND in this case. This is the case where we want to use OR, because it's if they fit one of these categories. If one of them is true, then we want to give them the discount. Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay. The one other thing I want to call out is, in our code, you can't do it like if age is less than 10 or greater than 65. because the code doesn't know like what variable you're comparing to 65 here. It doesn't take like the age from the first one. So you do have to type it out again in the second condition. Like you should think of these as they're their own two separate conditions, and then you're just connecting them with the or. Okay, that makes sense? Yeah, question.
Do you put the space between the or is it fine if you just keep that?
You're saying like, could we do it like something like this?
Yeah, or the two little straight lines.
Oh yeah. I think the code will work. Generally, the two lines will end up being next to each other without the space, but I think your code will work even if you put a space. I will say for readability, you do want a space before and after, right? If you had it like this, then it's a little bit harder to read. So at least for readability, it's good. Cool. Okay, we good on time. Senior youth discounts, we just did that. Okay, the final new operator we're gonna learn today, the not symbol. So this one, it takes the opposite of what the result is. So if we had not false, what do you think the result will be? And if we had not true? Okay. This one seems a little bit useless, right? Like, you know, if you had a phrase that was like, age is greater than 10, why would you put a not after it? You could just do age is less than 10. Generally, where I see this used is if you had like a Boolean variable, a bool variable, earlier in your code, and you wanted to do something for the opposite case of that bool. So potentially where you would use it, it's not used that commonly. You'll more use the and operator and the or operator, but at least wanted to show it here. Okay. Any questions before we go on to else if statements? Okay, I'll get you all talking for a little bit. So far, all the cases we've talked about had just two outcomes, right? It's either we give the discount or we don't give the discount. Either we play basketball or we play board games. But in life, there's often times where there might be multiple outcomes for a given condition. So in groups, I'll give you all a few minutes to just try to think of real world examples where you might have multiple outcomes for a given condition. Yeah, like 2-3 minutes.
Let's say like there's multiple parties and whatnot. Might go to this party, could go to that. Just depends on the vibe.
Got $10 to get you.
Oh, it's just maybe because you went to go to a restaurant.
I mean, there's like multiple parties.
That's too depending on how much money you probably could get.
I don't know. That's like, you got me thinking.
Like 8 couple, like they got one try, 2 try, 3 try.
Yeah,
Okay. Do people have examples they can share with the class?
Nah, I don't want to show them.
All right, what's an example?
Okay.
Yeah.
I said like if it's like multiple parties in one night, you
Okay.
can go to this party, go to that party. Just depends on what you vibe.
Okay. So, yeah, which one do you go to? Okay. Other ones? Yeah. Okay.
Let's say car crashes, then you get on your side, front.
Yeah. So you got in a crash. Which side do you exit? And so that one might be based on the damage of the car, right? If damage is in the front bumper, then we exit out the back window, something like that. Yep. Okay. Other ones? Yep. I feel like I have to hear it now.
A fast food menu.
Uh-huh.
Depending on how much money you have, you get number 1 or number 5.
Yep. So
But then it might be at the
if based on amount you have, which combo you can order. Yep. Sweet. So this isn't like, oh, you can only get number 1 or you can't get anything. It's like maybe you can get 1, or if you don't have enough for combo 1, you can get combo 3, right? Sweet. So let's put this into kind of the syntax for what this will look like. So again, ton of material on this slide. I'm gonna have you all practice with a real example right after this. But again, to reiterate, we'll always start with the if statement, which has the condition in parentheses, must come out to either true or false. Anything in the first set of curly braces will run if that first condition is true. The new part we're adding in now is what's called the else if keywords, and that will have its own condition after that. So we'll do an example with grades right after this that'll more clearly demonstrate this, but note that that also needs to have a condition. And you can have multiple else if conditions. So there can only be one if and one else, but there can be, it's almost like a sandwich, right? Like you have your breads at the end, the if and the else, but you can choose how many meats you want to put inside that sandwich. And those are kind of the else if parts. You can have 3 if you have multiple options. Yep. And the code in here will only run if the condition in the else if is true. And then finally, if everything above is false, then we run whatever's in the else case. Note that only one of the 3 here will run, right? If this first block is true and it runs, then it skips everything after that. So only one of the 3 will actually run. Any questions before we practice it? Yeah.
So the second one is wrong and it goes to the third?
Yes, correctly. Correct. So if first one is false, then it goes to the second. If second is false, it goes to the third, and it keeps going until it gets to the else. And if any of them are true, then it does that and then it stops and it skips everything after that. Okay. So I'm gonna hand out some paper, and in groups, I'm gonna have you all try to create kind of a grading system. What I'm gonna give you and what I want is the output. So we're gonna have a double grade. So this is gonna be some numeric value from a 0 to 100. And then we're gonna have a string letter grade, or we'll just call it letter. So it's like what letter should be associated with the numeric grade. So this is going to require setting up an if statement with a few else ifs and then an else at the end. And we want to list out like whether the user's letter is an A, B, C, D, or F. Okay? I'll pass around the paper in groups, one person write, and then the others, help contribute. So like you can go there, you here. Together. Again, we're just writing out the if and the if else and the else statements. So you want to go together. This is going to be a little bit hard because we just learned it, but try your best, and then we'll come together as a class. And if you have questions, raise your hand, and I'll come around. Just try to think about how you can get that first letter grade.
Then it skips like whatever else is in the Is it always set up a
No, just the if block. You don't need to do like the C and
Oh, we're not doing that.
yeah, sorry, just this part.
Print A or See out A or
So we can do is like, are you saying it's like
When you do else, you start the else thing, when you keep so there'll be like that if condition first. And then it's after that will be the else. So now it's where
I'm trying to think about how we wrote it in a thing. Like if I did it greater than or equal to 80, it's not specified
Alright, I'll let you all get back to your groups, but just to get it started, what's kind of the first thing we can do to start the if-else chain?
If grade is higher than, greater than 290.
Okay, so we start with an if, the special keyword if, and what we're seeing is if grade is greater than or equal to 90. Don't forget the curly braces. And what do we want to do if the grade is greater than or equal to 90? Okay, so in this one, we're just going to store it in the string. We'll do like the C out at the end. So we'll do an assignment statement, and we'll just say letter is equal to, and then the string name. And then the semicolon. Okay? Now kind of try to think about what has to go next so that we can get the B case.
We have to make another variable.
What was that?
We have to make another variable.
For which one? For the B case?
Oh,
We can just store it in letter. So we just want letter to be one and flow B, B, C, D.
Okay. Or we can do both. I think professor is and if the and assignment is true, the false assignment kind of interchangeable. Or at least for this example, but not always probably.
So the and is like if we have two conditions that we want to check. Both of those subconditions have to be true or false. And then it's like you put it together kind of with the table. The end, it's only the overall is true once the grade is 80.
Hold on, we'll do A plus the 90. If greater than 80.
If it was 90.
Okay, so what's the next thing that kind of goes on here? What's the special keywords we use? Else, if, and we have to put a condition in here. So what condition do we want?
Grade is greater than or equal to 80.
Okay. Grade is greater than or equal to 80. And what do we want to do in that case?
Letter B.
Okay, so we assign the value B to letter.
Well, we need the ands.
So like the and to make sure it's not greater than 90. Okay, so that's a really good point. If it was by itself, we would need to check two things, right? We would need to check grade is greater than or equal to 80 and that it's less than 90 to give them the letter B. But the way this if-else chain is going to work is it goes in order. So it first checks anything greater than or equal to 90 will be assigned the letter A, and then everything after it gets skipped. So that means once we get to this point, we already kind of know that the grade is less than 90. And so we can just do the check here, grade is greater than or equal to 80, and then assign it B. Letter equals A, else if grade is greater than or equal to 80, then letter is equal to B. All right, what comes next? Else if So because we still have some more cases, right?
Are we still keep going on with else if?
Yeah, because we still want to get like the C and the D case before we go down to the F, right? So yeah, I think when I put up the instructions, I just put it up to B, but kind of up till everything. Sorry. So what condition can we do here? Okay. Do another assignment statement. Letter is equal to C. Okay. One more, right? What are we doing here? Okay. Okay. And now we're kind of getting to the end, right? Where everything else, if none of these have been true, then we know like the user's grade isn't greater than 60. We know it's not greater than 70. We know it's not greater than 80. We know it's not greater than 90. So it kind of just leaves us of there's only one letter grade we can assign remaining, right? So this is kind of the final piece of bread to finish the sandwich. What's the key word we can put here?
Yeah.
And so do we need a condition here or no? Again, the else statement doesn't have any condition. It just, everything else has been false. So this is what has to be left. So we still have to use the curly braces. And here we can just print out, or not print out, sorry, just assign the letter F. Yeah? So if we're to now print out at the end, your grade is, and then, or sorry, we'll say your letter grade. Okay, so let's try some examples. Let's say their grade is a 78. And let's see what happens. So let's actually also put this into the visualizer and see. Okay. Okay. Where's the next? Okay. So next, all right, grade is 78. So what's going to happen at this line 8? What's the value of grade here?
It's going to say it's not greater than 90.
Yeah, so 78 is not greater than 90. So this is going to be false.
So what's the next?
And we skip line 9. So we come down to 10.
Same.
Yeah. Is 78 greater than or equal to 80? No. So we skip the next set of curly braces. Now is 78 greater than or equal to 70?
True.
True. So what line does it go to now? 13. Letter is going to be equal to C. Unfortunately, the visualizer doesn't show strings, but it should have the value C. And then look what happened. After 13, it immediately jumped down to 19. Why was that? Why didn't it go and check the condition at 14? Yes.
It assigned that variable.
It assigned the variable, but it's more so with this if-else chain. Once one of the conditions is true, it skips everything else. Only one of them can be true. And so then it will print out your letter grade is C. All right, let's try one where, how do we rerun it? Edit this code. Let's do a case, oh shoot, we didn't edit it actually. All right, let's do like 56. Where to visualize that? Okay, so line 6, we assign the value 56 to grade. What happens here? True or false?
False.
So what line do we go to next?
10.
Yep. And is this true or false?
False.
So what line do we go to?
12,
Is this true or false?
false.
So what line do we go to?
14,
True or false?
false.
So what line?
6.
Okay. And then 16, because we don't check anything in 16, we just immediately go down to the next one. We just assign letter as F. And so when we print out, your letter grade is F. Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay. So again, really the big thing I want to iterate is only one of these is going to end up being true. And as soon as one of them is true, it skips the rest of them. And if none of the conditions are true, then the else case gets executed. Yeah? Sweet. Okay. So again, homework 2 is going to be due on Monday. Lab 3 will be due next week. So if you haven't done Lab 3 yet, come in today at 4 p.m. or come in Monday at 4 p.m. And then we're also going to have the review session in here from 2 to 4. So I'd highly encourage you to come to the review session. I know it is your holiday. To be fair, it's also my holiday as well, but I'll be coming in because I just really want to make sure everyone feels caught up and feels like they're in a good spot to move on with the rest of the class. Yeah? Sweet. Yeah, question?
So Monday will still be kind of the regular work on medical stuff. So if we're scheduled for that day, still come in for that? Or is it better to come in today?
It's up to you.
Okay.
Like, if you can come in today, come in today. If you'd rather come in Monday at 4, you can do that.
And this will still all be in here.
Yep, everything will be in here.
Thank you.
Cool. Sorry, one final thing I'll share on here on the EdSTEM discussion. On the 110 calendar, so I showed you like all the classes and lectures. Also, if you want one-on-one help, you can click on this link and it allows you to book an appointment slot with one of the Googler TAs. So they can help with non-class topics like resume support, mock interviews, or they can also help with projects and homeworks that you're doing for this class. So you click on their booking link, you click on a time, and you just let them know what homework that you're working on and that you want help with. And it'll send you a Google Meet link, and you can meet with them for like 20 minutes. Yep. All right, have a good weekend. Thank you. Cool. Yeah.
See you, Chris.
Yep. Take care. Have a good weekend.
Also, I'm still struggling on the problems that you said that was in
The textbook? Yeah, we can.
But there's like a problem where it says 0 through 100.
Uh-huh.
You have to print out valid or not valid.
Okay.
Whenever I put a negative input, it'll
Uh-huh.
say not valid, but then valid and valid after.
Okay.
And I'm just pull it up.
Yeah, sure.
I was having trouble trying to figure out how